introduction.
I'd like
Fred's place, wasn't it?
call the meeting of the Administration of Veterans Affairs to order. First on the agenda is to accept the elections grant and amend the budget. And we have Kathleen in to explain that to us.
Basically, what this pertains to is the HAVA grant. The funds under that contract, there's a subdivision called the Shoebox grant. And what the, basically what it is, it's a reimbursement to the county, all county boards of elections for local dollars spent to further implement HAVA, Help America's Vote Act. Basically, however, the shoebox goes toward expenses as pertaining to our voting machine. So it could be anything from paper rolls for the opening of and the closing of the recording of the machine, our memory chip, the devices that go in the machine, to ink, just basic supplies pertaining to the voting machine itself, which can be quite costly. So that's pretty much it. It's just pertaining to the machine and expenses that we incur.
Okay, and that program expires in March of 2014.
Right.
So we still have the funds
Yes.
available to do
Yes.
this.
How much is it?
What was it?
140,000.
Yep. Thank you, Jim.
140?
140-668-52.
So I would entertain a motion. Bob
I'll
Hyde,
make a motion.
second by Fred and Bruce. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yes. And I thank you very much for coming in.
And I thank you all kindly. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Kathy, Sylvia's not out there. Can you
Yeah.
send her in?
I sure will. Oh, she just came in.
ESPN? We got ESPN? We don't pull, they didn't get it.
Peter, that's what, I don't think he's up to date on that yet.
Still like the executive session for 4?
No, I'm not sure. No.
Full house.
Interesting.
Sylvia, how are you?
I just said to Kip, I hope you love
Can't grab a seat out there.
All right, I will.
Yeah, I think there's one right out there, Jack. Okay, second on the agenda, well, second through 6, Sylvia has some issues she wants to bring forth tonight. The first one is the ACS film storage, and to discuss the veterans card status.
The ACS film storage is, we had 2 sets of films, one from one company, Spectra, who went out of business, and we now have that film. And IQS, who held our films because we wanted to look at problems like acetate films, or we also did some digitize all our old court films. So those films need to go back. We store ours at Iron Mountain. We checked them there before we went. Put all of them sorted in one basket, put them back in.
And that is
Well, that's a, right,
A cost.
a cost.
right, we put film in during the year as more records are added. These will just, as Sylvia already said, will be put in. Some have never been in storage, which would be the old court films. So as far as for preservation, if there was any catastrophe in Herkimer County, it's better to have the film
So
off-site.
ways that one, so that we have our records. As you know, we had a great fire as ECN3, we lost the records, so.
And the film of the old court records, they're not on any system, they're just film.
Mhm.
So they definitely need to be addressed.
What's the volume? I mean, physical volume of these records? Any idea?
How many of, total amount of,
Room this size, bigger, and so on?
You're talking about the paper volume?
would probably.
Yeah, well, yes.
And
It's
it's,
bigger than this room, yes.
If not bigger than
Yeah.
this, right?
and it's
Well,
stored off-site?
Yeah.
Well,
it's
right,
in
the film will go
It's on a
off-site.
film.
Yeah, the court records would have probably taken all of this room and more,
Mhm.
because they were 150 years of film,
We went back,
worth of
yeah.
court
Mr.
records.
Boner from 1800 to 1950.
Once you film them, can you destroy them?
So
Yes, we
that-
may and we have.
And we
We
have.
are doing the purging right now in some of these records. In other departments as well.
we're doing them, or we have that outside firm doing it?
We do them.
We do it ourselves, thank you.
So you're looking to, support the cost for the storage?
To
Yeah,
put-
we-
to
we-
put
I
less-
bel- yeah, I believe we have enough money in our
In-
current budget to
Yeah.
Okay.
probably, maybe not quite enough, but I would say it shouldn't be an excessive amount more. In the future, the annual fee will go up because each role has a fee associated with it.
And that will be taken care of in the
That
future
would be
budget.
budgetary.
And presently, IQS, one of the companies, has the films, but there's no charge, they have not been charged.
They've been very generous in
Very
that
generous,
respect.
but we need to protect the county. the county.
Where are they stored?
Right now, IQS is.
But where's that?
That's in Syracuse. It's in one of his buildings.
And they're all insured for us and everything, or who carry,
He
how's?
is, yes, he's covered with that.
What's the cost for the storage?
I don't
It's
have
$1.45
that
a roll.
total, for the total amount, I don't have that figure yet.
How many rolls can we get?
I don't know,
Right now in storage, we have approximately 1,158 rolls.
1,158?
yeah.
Approximately, I don't remember off the top of my head.
So
The
IQS,
ones that are.
Well, there will be additional rolls. Some rolls had to be removed from storage to be digitized. They will be returned to storage.
And there's a
and then
fee
there
to
will-
do that.
right.
Take them out and put it back, Iron Mountain
And-
charges a fee.
And then there will be a charge, I presume, we haven't talked to our vendor specifically about that, to add additional rolls to storage.
are we in the latest technology in what we're doing?
Well, as far as,
I don't know
our-
either.
What do you mean by
Yes.
latest?
I mean, what we're doing now is something that we've been doing over a period of time.
Since 2004, this county, we had some programs available through in-house, through informational services provided our office with software they wrote for us, and we were using it. Then I instituted this digitizing in 2004. Everything that comes into the county clerk's office is scanned. Every record that comes in our office. This is the latest technology, Helen, that is out there. Eventually,
within our cost, within our,
Eventually, I will have
Fiscal
that on,
ability.
with your permission, I'd like to put that on the internet, so people would be able to look at their records from their home, or wherever, like Old Forge. You know, they would be able to view documents rather than driving down an hour and a half.
Do we have a separate system, maybe Jim can answer this, Gene, or, that we're using like in social services for the kinds of this isn't microfilming that you're doing. This is
Microfilming.
taping. Aren't we doing something different than in social services? And storing that separate, Jim Wallace?
okay,
The records that we keep in social services, how does that contrast to what we're doing here? Is it,
That's two different operations.
I know they're different records, is it a whole different process too?
I couldn't speak to him. Tim will be here, we could check with him later.
So do you need, any, resolution for this?
No, we won't need a.
It's just
Well,
an, app-
it's
And I'll
it's
give
an
you an
FYI.
FYI.
it's
Well, I
saying
will
we're
give
gonna
you a
be-
Well, it'd be
figure.
nice if we had a committee approval.
okay.
That way we have a record that we saw
Absolutely.
and talked about
And
it.
then
What's the option if you don't do it?
Well, if they have a fire, if they get
Lose it
lost
all
somewhere,
again.
Right.
they're gone.
Right, I
And
just
we
wanted
really
that
want,
clear.
we really want to protect them. We have 1,000 already in storage, and we add them, you know, each day or each time that we digitize and film, we put them into this.
We digitize the documents, then they go, our vendor produces the film, and the court film specifically, they have to have a third-party approval before the courts will even allow the film to be accepted, so.
So I would entertain a motion to, go ahead with, this, work that Sylvia and John are doing. Fred,
Fred.
seconded by, Bob Hyde,
Thank
What
you.
was the cost on the rental of the roll?
$1.45 a roll.
Is that a year or a month?
Annual.
And you have been paying it, Mr. Hyde, you have been paying for this.
All those in
Right.
favor? Opposed? Carried.
Well, this is
And
it.
now you have some information.
Yes, I wanted to tell you that our software has been installed. We've had a few veterans coming in. What I did was create a list. I think there was like 30 or 40 veterans that had been calling who wanted this card. So I made a promise to call them back, and as we tried the system out, which we've had some problems with the system, with the pad sign, when you sign, and also when we were putting it into saving it? You said it was, what was it doing, John, when you went to save
Well,
it?
at certain times when the clerk would try to sign on to the program, it was reverting to its defaults and not to the steps, the changes that our vendor had made to make it work smoothly.
So we, we're working with what we have, hoping that we don't have any more issues with it, and as they come in, we do not turn them away, it's very successful. We have to date almost 80 merchants in Herkimer County. I'll tell you, Herkimer County people never cease to amaze me, they're very, very generous, and they can go in from having a haircut to some of the funeral directors, to food
Hotels.
places, hotels, there's all kinds of discounts. The only downside of it is these poor veterans wanted the card, and Lowe's kept telling them to come and see me, which I don't produce legal, IDs. It was just, return the favor was a thank you. You folks allowed us to create the card. It wasn't a program which I'm required to have. And as a result, there were a lot of bells and whistles going off to the Lowe's over here, and I just got a email that states that the only time that they can give the discount is to someone who's retired 20 years as a veteran, or are disabled, are allowed to get the 10%. So now they're turning the veterans away. I had a conference meeting on Thursday last week in Vernon, and we talked about this, and throughout the state, the other clerks are seeing the same thing, even in Oneida County. There's 3 holidays a day, a year, there's 3 of those holidays, they will recognize the veteran at 10%. But some of the veterans are going down and giving them a hard time, and they are giving. I saw one today that said, I'm in here every day, I do all kinds of constructions, they give the 10%. But I guess there were so many overrides that it brought attention. But you would think that a company their size would encourage, that's business. It's one hand helping the other. So I haven't gone down to talk to the manager because I didn't really want to get in the middle of it because it's a volunteer thing. But Court National is telling them they can no longer give.
Sylvia, the question came up last at our monthly meeting. Can veterans who have your card use the vendors that are in Oneida County?
That's another thing we're talking about. Yes, we want to be able to go county. Right at this point, no. But
Are they turning them down, or I would think that if they went in?
Well, what they're doing is if you're a Herkimer County resident, and I don't know how they're doing it, you can go up to Oneida County and file your DD 214, which is your discharge paper, and they're getting an Oneida County card. And they're using it, I guess, in Oneida County, but,
So someone
We're
going
not-
with a Herkimer County card couldn't use it as a vendor in Oneida County?
but
Did you know
we're
that?
looking
Oh,
to see
okay,
if
okay,
they will recognize it all over in all the counties. Right now, there's 35 county clerks in New York State that have the retainer paper.
Good job.
And it's really, really a wonderful program. You meet some really interesting veterans, and some from World War II that have talked about some of the atomic bomb and what it's phenomenal. It's really interesting. So it's been thank you for allowing me to do it because it's been wonderful.
Very that. Next on the agenda is to adopt the annual report of the county clerk, and I think everyone received a copy. Put
Yep.
that in their box. I would entertain a motion to move it forward. Bob, and second by Peter. And is there any discussion or questions?
Just an observation is, there's a lot of good information in here. I think sometimes graphically, DSS puts out, when they do their monthly report, they do it on a graph. And if this was graphed, I think it would really show the trends up and down and all. I mean, I don't know what you accrue this information in, but Excel would do graphs nicely too. So just for a way of portraying the information, you might want to look at
Actually,
that.
The second page is in Excel. I did produce it.
Yeah, so then to do a graph on it where you could just capture it, I mean, you gotta do the math and look at it this way. When you see the graph, you see the trend lines as well.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? It's passed. Okay, you wanna talk about the backfill of records management?
Yeah, records management has a part-time 19.5-hour position, and that position helped us to maintain the office for other departments who come in and use it. As you're well aware, I'm the RMO for the county, the records management officer, so I'm therefore responsible for all the records that are in as a keeping. I'm not responsible for what's the content. This individual would answer the phone, continue to organize and take in other office records. We want to do a naturalization project with the records. We like to continue with all the records projects we have, so It's a very, it's a nice job, it's something I would like to keep if I could, and backfill it. The woman that was in retired, and due to health, she could no longer lift the boxes and do the work that was required of her.
And this one is already in your budget.
This one's in my budget, however, it is, I've offered it to, and I have it promised to there's a young girl that's in the part-time printing shop. She approached me actually
She's a
about.
DSS employee.
She had asked me about the position, and I said, if it's acceptable with the legislature, I have no problem. I have another person that works for the veteran part-time and works for me in DMV, and that seems to have worked out, so one way or another, I will backfill it because it's needed. And again, I would like to install a scanner in there. I'm gonna talk to my company that I do business with, because I believe we can start doing a lot more scanning down there, even with my own records, which will help back up the girls in the active records. That record in the room downstairs, the records, I would have a little open house for you. Those are inactive. Those are records that are no longer in the active file. But upstairs, in my office where the vault is, they're all active records. But they both go like hand in hand with each other.
This is a 19.5-hour position?
It is.
So that's not, no benefits?
Yes,
Oh, it has
Well,
benefits?
benefits aren't budgeted. Sylvia's asking to make a person, I think everybody here understands, anything under the 1020, you're not a CSA employee, you don't get the, I think when we say benefits here, I think most of us are thinking about health insurance,
Right.
because all the other benefits happen.
Mhm.
That Sylvia's asking to create a CSA employee with benefits that's not in the budget.
At how many hours?
35,
A full-time position,
Right.
that is.
for the county, could not, they don't look at it for Sylvia, they look at it for the whole county, and that's the issue.
So if they're holding two positions, let's say Sylvia's position and position in the print shop, they now become a full-time employee?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that would mean that the print shop would have to budget for a full-time employee as well as.
They would go 50-50 on it.
Right.
Why would we do that? Why would we do this? And absorb the extra cost of health insurance
Why would we do it?
Yeah, I
She's
just-
presently working for the county part-time
without health insurance?
without help, and I believe she would like to have a full-time
Oh,
status.
I'm sure.
I have the part-time position there.
Very good employee.
And she's exhibited her abilities and very conscientious.
Yeah, especially with the veterans program, she was very helpful with to do things in-house.
This is the one that's in the copy center?
Yes.
Correct, and their offices are like almost door to door.
So she does the copy center and the veterans?
No,
No.
she just does the copy center, she's part-time.
Oh, I thought you said she did a
She
good
does
job.
have
with
I
that.
another
have
person that
another-
has a veterans.
As an example.
As an example of different departments are looking.
So when we look at those positions on the budget, Jim, are they marked part-time? How do we distinguish those? Because they have, and I agree with you, that when we talk benefits, we're really talking the health insurance.
Yeah, they're not on the salary schedule.
Because even though they're full-time, do they become CSEA because they're working 35 hours, is that it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
It would be 20 hours or more, Helen, they would become CSA. That's
So-
why 19 and a half for part-time is a magic number. That keeps you under 1020 for the half a year.
Well, when you say they're not on the salary schedule, because it's still showing a
Full-time
half-time.
salary schedule.
Do we have many of those? Do we have many such positions that don't show on the salary schedule that are really, because they're working two part-timers, they become full?
Oh, no, there's one.
One other than this?
There's one person,
Okay. That's the one we were talking about, veterans. Okay.
and she's another good employee.
So that's the issue as far as, I have not backfilled because I've talked to her and I've left it open to have a meeting with the folks.
And there was one other point, the two people that hold those positions, it's not an age discrimination, but they're, a little bit older, and this
I was gonna
person,
bring that up.
this person, but this person
No.
is quite young. But I mean,
Yes.
it's somebody that can learn and carry on.
And it would be good for you folks to have someone, because I'm not gonna be here forever either, to be able to back up and know the records management process down there.
Are there other people other than bringing in a part-timer to know that? You got John, we have other people in there that know it, don't we? Records
Oh,
manager?
yeah, all,
Oh,
anyone
yeah.
in my office
Oh.
would be able to, I mean, when.
Right, but we can't, like, if somebody needs to go in the office,
We have to-
presently, with the two positions we have, because the other position in there is only a 10-hour
10 hours.
position. We have a 19 and a half, and the other's a 10, and the other person doesn't want to work any more than 10, so it's really,
And one is a retired school teacher, and most of them are retired who want the part-time, so they're not gonna hang around. I mean, they're learning and they can handle the job, but they don't.
How does the sharing work out? That works out fine with the other departments, you've had no problem with
I have
that?
not had any problem. I mean, I've talked to Mr. Miller, and like sometimes I need Michelle to answer the phone if I'm shorthanded, and I've got 30 people in line. You know, but if he's not busy, he'll allow Michelle to come up and cover the switchboard, because that's our responsibility. Or if I'm shorthanded in my office, she'll come over like a half hour. It's worked out well, you know, so that we can keep our lines moving, because
What-
people don't like to wait.
Money-wise, Jim, if the individual that's funded through the veterans was also the one to go to DMV, not talking personalities, we don't have the same that's a question, do we have the same reimbursement rate that we would as opposed to someone who's currently funded through social services? We'd get more, it would be less costly to us if
You would have.
the person
50%.
shared with social services.
50% would be.
Yeah, would be funded.
But I think it's Bob or somebody asked that question, that would be shared.
I would entertain a motion for Sylvia to be able to go ahead. Brad, a second?
I'll say
Bruce? Any other discussion?
So if you were to take one, then we would be entertaining the backfill on one of those other part-timers, is what we'd be looking for, right? The person,
No,
I'm gonna backfill that position.
That she has
that
vacant.
That I have vacant now. I have money in the budget, Helen, to do it.
and I catch it, but there's one of those people that's already working part-time for you and for Charlie.
no, that person
That's-
stayed.
that-
was
That person,
just
that's
her job.
separate.
It's two
That was just an
Okay.
example.
She's
Okay.
been doing that for 10,
All
I
right,
think,
got you,
10
got
years.
you got
And she's part of the next issue that I'm
Okay,
gonna
I've got
discuss without mentioning it.
Mhm.
Now, this is a whole different.
Okay,
But it's gonna be a good process, I think, because I think she's interested, she is already
Mm-hmm.
holding a job here.
How long has she been there, Sylvia? The one that you're looking to put in that position?
a few years,
Few
I'd
years,
say.
I'd say a couple.
So it's not somebody that just started?
Yeah, fair.
No.
And she's familiar with what she's doing anyways, right?
And it doesn't have to
I
be a
no
competitive
hesitation.
exam?
She'll learn,
Because it's two part-time
You know,
positions.
she's got
Two
the
part-time
retired
positions.
teacher who's very knowledgeable in there, and she'll pick it up, she'll learn it. It's, and like I say, I'd like to scan, and I think with her ability, we'd be able to do more in that office.
Right, and even if we aren't able to get another scanner, we do have a scanner on the first floor that somebody can come in from another office, and if we have the other person there, they can come up and work on that while the office is still manned.
I can't use the term grant in this in front of John, so I won't.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
That needs to go to Ways and Means, Jim? Absolutely. Okay, the next one she has on here, number 5, is to approve upgrades for the part-time DMV personnel equal to the old forge rates. This is something Sylvia wants to bring forth now, but she will wait and actually request it at budget time.
Next budget time, right, just one.
So it's just for our information to think about until we go over the budget.
And I spoke to both of the individuals that I would be doing this with no promise again, but I just felt that I've watched the girl, the one person, as we talked about, who works part-time with the veterans and with me, she's been here 10 years. She falls into that part-time category, which the highest I can pay her is, we just raised her, John, to $9.56. She does everything the same as all the other clerks in that office, and to me, there's an unfair situation that she'll even go to Old Forge with me, she works the switchboard, she does all the same type of work that the clerks that are there full-time. And just recently, you let me backfill a part-time position in DMV with an individual who was working full-time, provisional that she passed the test. She passed the test, but I couldn't reach her. So rather than letting her go and starting all over again with training, I hired a person off the civil service list who is now working out very well, and this person who had all the training is now doing part-time, but she does exactly the same as all the other clerks in that office. nothing different, they're all equal. So that's when I thought about it, I thought, well, it would only be fair and fitting if I could ask that they could have, not as much as what they're making, because I think we said it's probably, we haven't looked it up, 15 plus, but the old Forge receives a 1344, which is a little bit better than the 956. Again, not at this time, because I don't have the money, but I would like it considered for the next budget time, and I will be asking. I just think it's a fair thing to do.
Now, these individuals have not had to pass a civil service test and be
Yes,
reachable.
both of them, the 10-year one that I had fell in the same situation.
But didn't have to be reachable, that was not in the competitive top 3 of your
She
choices.
couldn't, I couldn't, and she
Right.
had been doing the job over a year. I couldn't hire her.
But there are people who will have passed the test, like you picked one, and there could be other people that are on the list.
And there are people who got 100 on the test that I fired. So, they were number one on the civil service. They had no idea how to register a car or do a title, and I had to call Albany. When I see things, there's things that we have to audit, what's the word we use?
Audits.
We do an audit on them, we're required by the state DMV, and there's things that, you see when they're processing. And there were a couple of things that was brought to my attention by a supervisor, and I immediately called the state to ask them, he said, don't let them stay more than a few more weeks, because they're not getting it, it's hard, and it was a mutual thing.
Do part-timers get longevity? Jim, or Bill, Jim, or Steve?
Part-timers get.
Earn a longevity
A
pay?
part-timer, 19 and a half hours, get a longevity payment?
So they don't get longevity, so these people got whatever salary you give them, and then if there's any 2% or 3% or what, because they're non-union.
Right, for instance, this one 10-year person, what was it, 7, 8, 9, she's worked at that, she did not benefit over the 10 years like if she had she has a full-time job, but she doesn't benefit like the other individuals did because she's a part-time status.
So that's true even of the previous one where we said 2 part-timers, they don't get longevities in those positions at all. The only thing they get would be, what, raises that were negotiated through contract, is that how that would work?
Well, I think with the one that, the current combination employee, it seems like the last time there was a contract, there was some increase, and I think that was because of contractual requirements. I don't know how
Correct,
that
John.
worked. Was that correct,
But,
Jim?
but Jim, was it on the veterans' end or was it on my end? Wasn't it on the veteran, not on?
I'd have to check. so
I-
What was the reason for it? I missed
That's
what
what
you said, what the reason was? Why they got it?
Contractual
There was a,
requirements.
Statute.
yeah, it was a union.
That's their union
Union.
employee.
And I think she may have fell, I'm not sure, I don't
She
wanna.
did get it, she did get an increase. I mean, I don't know what amount, it wasn't significant, but it was probably some percentage of something, I imagine.
And that's what triggered mine to look at this, and I thought, well, in all fairness, let's see what we can do, is, because she's been, I never realized that she stayed in that part-time status all these years.
Not knowing what our budget is going to look like for next year, this is just for information purposes,
Just
there's
for
no
information
commitment, there's no.
No,
No vote.
no, not.
Just to keep it on, in our minds,
Keep it.
back of our minds for one budget comes up. And I appreciate for that heads up on that, Sylvia.
You're welcome.
Last on, the list is to the authorized courts to have access to the county clerk records.
Yeah, these poor folks missed the boat. A few years ago, when the CEO of ACS, who is, again, the company that I do business with, I had been asking to be able to connect the other offices in this county, and that's one of my greatest desires to do. I'm not finished yet. And we had the county treasurer was using our records, and I think that
That was already in place with the re-sign up on the contract, so it was able to get 5 additional
yeah, that's what I'm leading up to
installations.
say. When I had asked for these, there was a fee. There was going to be a fee and an annual fee to have these installed into the sheriff now has a hookup, the district attorney has a hookup. The records management, we put one in there, the treasurer now, and also real property. So
Also, what was the last one?
real property. So these people don't get out of their seat and come walking into my office, they can just click a button on it and get any information, especially from, I think, social services, was that?
Yeah,
it was.
I think 2 of them may have been in play
Yeah,
already, and
The
then,
treasurer and social services.
but then
So-
with this re-up on the contract, Sylvia was able to negotiate 5 additional.
So at that time, I asked the clerk of the Supreme Court if they were interested, because, I had this, and then there was this, we went back and forth with the CEO, he tried to tell me that this was the first time he heard about it, and I said, no, so I referenced a request of this like a year or two in advance, and what he ended up doing was giving us the 5 free hookups. There was no cost to Herkimer County to put those systems in, and they're up and running, and I've not had any.
For the court system?
No.
No, other
I never
departments.
heard back from the court, so when I saw the retired Supreme Justice, I asked him, I says, why didn't you want the records? He really didn't know anything about. However, now we're trying to get the records there, because I think they would be best served with them, because of, you know, the issues that they have on a daily basis to contend with. They have put a computer in at their own expense, they're waiting for the software, and there's now a fee and a yearly fee. So,
Let them pay it.
Well,
that's what I'm here for, whether,
but there's a little more to the story. It actually benefits our office too, because it frees up our people from going to look up on the computer when they're calling, can you look this up for me, or print something out for them. If they can see it, they may not need to print it out, and it saves time.
They got more money than we got.
Is it their job to look that up, or is it your
Yeah,
job?
yeah.
Well,
The public record, the public goes in there and does the work themselves.
I think it's a courtesy, I think it's.
well, and Sylvia's also clerk of
Sometimes
courts
there's a
too.
court, there might be a court hearing going on, Mr. Bono, and they need these records, so.
I said, let them pay for it then, if they need it that instantaneous.
They don't,
Yes.
I've
How
already
many-
checked and they don't have the money, no.
How many times, how many are, like a month are we doing for them, on average?
Oh, golly.
Quite a bit, because
They're frequent.
Sylvia's
They're
the holder of
frequent
civil and criminal records. And so there are two
It's
different courts.
frequent.
If it's that important for them to have immediate access to it, or that you, I mean, where are you obligated to drop everything and do it? They can find, how much are you talking about in terms of cost?
I don't feel that I'm obligated, but they've checked with the Office of Court Administration, and there absolutely is no way that they're gonna fund it, I guess, but I told them to go back, I think it's.
Was $800
$800.
one-time fee and then $199 for for the years of the contract for service.
$1,000, you're saying?
It's about
$1,100?
about $1,600.
$1,600? We should absorb it.
No, overall.
Why should we absorb it?
Presumably the next time.
You mentioned modern technology, and we had.
I understand that, but they got
This is what it's all
dough. They
about.
got, court system's got money.
Well, they did install a computer for this purpose.
Yeah, it's there, it's ready to go, it's just they need the software.
So we need to
Absolutely,
vote
get the money for the
to
computer.
approve it, it's
To
just
get
a
the
vote to
funding for
approve
the
it.
computer.
Have they even written to ask for it?
Right.
Oh, they've been in my.
Sylvia,
No, they've
they
written
checked
you.
to a grant, I mean,
Do me a
that's
favor,
something
can you get
totally
my,
different.
can you get that little
Do you want him to
connector?
exit this room if I mention, I was thinking.
No,
of
I'm just
doing
saying,
both
I mean,
records
isn't,
in. They're-
that
they're-
would be for the public, I mean, shouldn't there be a grant or something?
A grant?
To supply that,
There is a possibility that, he's saying like if there's money available to help.
Well,
No, I mean,
let me just
not
tell you about
specifically a
records,
grant.
let me just give you a brief summary of records management grants. In the last few that we actually participated in, if you got your money, they were cutting it in half, and then you probably weren't gonna have it in time to finish your project, because that's the state fiscal
Plus, have you heard the term, they
setup
sweep,
right now.
they're sweeping everything, they did the snowmobile thing. We collect $5 at the counter for this records management grant that what John is talking about. But the state, if there's like $350 or $870,000, they sweep it out and take it. And leave very little for the clerks to use. That's, the fire department, police departments, the clerks, county clerks, all of us, we collected, all of us take advantage of.
so why don't we implement a plan, Sylvia, if they call you for it, charge them $5 for it.
We cannot do that.
You can't
I
do
wished
that.
I could.
You could say to them, I'll get back to you when I have time to look it up.
To whom?
You're also
When
talking
they call you.
you're always,
Oh, the call.
and well, unfortunately, many times these things are things that the judge is in court and they need this paper
Yeah,
right now.
I couldn't as clerk of the courts.
The question I would have, we have the court system now, Jim Wallace, this is to you, where we're doing certain services for them, and we bill them back for it, and they pay us,
We have to
right?
get approval, yep.
And they've agreed to those things? I mean, is this,
Correct.
is
Yeah,
this,
we put a plan in, the legislature approves it, we send it in, and,
and whatever our experience is, they're paying their share, based on space, is that?
well, they approve our plan, absolutely.
Is the plan a formula, or is the plan an amount of money?
A little bit of both. Let's say they want this painted, Sylvia, Helen, that painted, that painted, that painted, they'll approve those things. As far as the maintenance, it's the whole square footage
Their share.
versus our, percentage of our whole maintenance.
I don't
But
understand
that's
why we should
approved, and
have.
Sylvia's tried to do that, and they told her, even though it's, $1,000 for the first year, and on, but.
Well, because, the the staff, it really benefits the staff besides our staff of the court. I mean, it's a win-win.
Both, I think it's a win-win, both staffs, because if you go and talk to the chief clerk or any of the people over there that work in the courts, and I say, why don't you run our records? I mean, I started this years ago, and then the one girl was Shirley, she was very French, she was really excited about it, and then she left, so. And then when I had the opportunity, and I kept hounding my company, let's get let's get Herkimer County connected here. I wanna connect to all the other different departments.
So what
Maybe
are you
Sylvia,
recommending?
if you kept like a log and let us know how many there is.
Mr.
I mean,
Schrader,
I understand what John's saying, you know what I'm saying?
If I can
understand
find a
what
hole to drive a bulldozer to, I will. I'm still working on that.
you understand what I'm saying, like, is
I
there
got
30
5
calls,
free
like Kurt
work.
says, is there 30 calls, is there 10 calls, is there?
Oh, it's everything.
You know.
It's.
I mean, just to justify it, John.
There is interaction with the courts in our office every single day. So, I mean, they receive the records and we're the holder of the records. We receive them after, Sylvia's responsible for those records, even though she's clerk of the court in a ministerial capacity, and the court's the court. I mean, that's.
Who's driving the bus to do this, though? Is it you, or are they
Yeah.
driving?
We need-
Who's driving the bus to get the records?
Yeah.
Well, I started.
No, to set the system up on the computer.
That's already in place.
That's already,
No, for them to have access to it, is it a?
Why does the courts want it?
Well, is it a burning issue for them, that they want it, or have they put it in writing asking for it?
Okay,
Well, it's a wish list.
point of order, Bruce has made the motion to authorize the courts to do this. Do I have a second? Fred? And, Gary, would you?
I just want to comment, I'm all for the justice system and efficient court system, and I commend you for wanting to do that, but we're talking about unfunded mandates. And when I worked in law, their filing fees, the court system goes up all the time. If they can't fund it, I don't see where we have the obligation, or even if we're able to, give them a gift of money. Isn't it, I mean, it's the state's responsibility, it would seem to me.
All those in favor?
Is this a motion to do it for them?
To go ahead and authorize
The money.
Sylvia to do that.
And Sylvia's gonna pay it out of her budget? Is that where the money is? And you've got the money for it?
I'd have to check, I'm not gonna answer that. Well,
You'll
I'll
find-
find it. But again, like I said to Mr. Schrader, this is.
No, I understand what you're
If
saying.
I can find, if there's a will, there's a way, I'll try to do this.
Okay. All those in favor?
Alright.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I know.
Is there any other for the committee?
Oh, I have something for you. The recording of the legislative meetings, I got several calls this week about the quality of the recording, and I'm wondering if we could, since it's something apparently that comes under your committee, if we would be looking at the quality and finding out if it's I don't know if it's a college that can do it for us, but the acoustics in there appear to be poor, and therefore, when people are listening to it on Channel 99, they don't have as good reception. And I wonder if your committee has any solution on that.
Can we ask them? I think we've had that problem before.
Remember, we looked at, thousands and thousands of dollars for a new system, and the legislature,
How long ago did we look, Jim? I just
I'd
think
say
that
2 or 3
technology
years
has
ago.
changed so much.
2 or 3 years ago.
I'd say,
Really?
yeah, it was a couple,
Don't hold me,
I
it
was
might
on
be
the
3 and a
committee.
half, 2.5, I don't
Yeah.
know. But if you want us to, we chased that before, we'll chase it again. if
I
we
just
want.
was curious what
We'll
the
look
cost
at
would
to
be. Yeah, and then the other piece on it, and I've had a few
That was
emails with
Right.
Chairman Bono on this, is the committee meetings, and whether there's any desire on the part of the legislature, and I guess it comes through your committee first, about the recording of the committee meetings. We've got the citizens group that's doing it, but, and there could be some people that, don't like that idea because they feel that it's a political action committee or something. But since more and more of the dialogue is being directed, maintained, and from some perspectives forced into the committee, I'm wondering if there would be any consideration to the recording of the committee meetings. I understand that the technology is not that expensive. There was a recent editorial in the OD, I think it was the town of New Hartford, about recording committee
They don't
meetings.
even acknowledge Oakland County,
I beg your pardon?
they don't even acknowledge the county,
Who?
the OD.
Well, when they do, we'd prefer they didn't, I guess.
Said Oakland was in, all the good things they do, they give credit to Oneida County.
Well, this was, I guess there was a debate on whether they should be,
Well, my
but,
point is, that's what I think of the OT.
well, I guess the point is it spoke to citizens' need for information
We were
and the
given national
transparency.
recognition. We were given national recognition. The only outlet that didn't recognize Herkimer County was the OT. We put on page 6, maybe a half a line.
But to my point, I think that at least being able to evaluate, since so much of the county government is taking place here, in the spirit of transparency, to figure out a way to have that investigating, whether it's even possible to be broadcast on Channel 99, either something that, I guess preferable that we generate.
We can investigate it, right, Jim, or do you wanna just?
Sounds like it could be an IT committee thing.
Yeah.
I'm not,
I commit.
I
No,
find the
it's
way it is,
administration.
you know, we can't get into the Hollywood business. You know, we're doing, our meetings are open, who's here? What are, you know, we bark transparency, but our meetings are open. We got
People are
citizens-
watching it.
We got, fine, the citizens group is doing, let them continue.
Well, I would just.
We have our monthly meetings. Like I
Our
said,
committee meetings may be open, and in the spirit of transparency, it's not only not to block it, but it's to encourage it. It's not benign, even benign neglect isn't what we need. We should be encouraging, tough decisions are being made in your committees, and it helps to keep the people better informed. And Channel 99 on cable is something that is watched. I don't know about this group, but, I don't know, Gene, where it goes. I mean, you asked Jim's permission, is that what you were asking, or you said Jim?
No, I was just seeing if the committee wants to go forth and have it investigated anymore, or if we are fine the way it is.
Should we have the IT committee look at it to see if it's feasible and if it's possible and the expense associated with it? And his information?
The guy that comes from the college is a volunteer, I take it? Right?
Oh, I don't think so.
So he's not paid, so who's gonna do this? Who's gonna get the camera ready? Who's gonna buy the tape? Who's gonna submit the tape? What happens if we don't tape the thing? Are we gonna get chastised because we quote-unquote hid something?
Would we be able to
No,
look
no,
at
our
those
meetings
issues
are-
that you just asked, Mr. Bono? We could
Look at them,
and
you get 9
see.
votes, you can do it. I've got no problem, we get 9 votes and we'll go ahead with it.
Well, I'm just suggesting, does anyone have a problem with it being looked at? And would it be appropriate to send it to the
Look at
Information
it.
Technology Committee rather than would the Administrative Committee refer it to Information Technology and answer the very questions that Mr. Bono just said and find out, it might be very inexpensive or it might be very expensive.
Big problem is half the county can't get Channel 99.
Well, there's a lot of them that do, a lot of them do, Fred.
A lot of them don't watch it.
Thing about watching it, you can't get it.
Should we just table it?
Look into it.
Do you want to refer it to Information Technology? We're
This
See
committee.
if we can get a cost
First gotta come up
Yeah,
with this
come up with a
committee, now we
cost, what
refer
it
it
is,
to.
I mean,
Well, who's going to come up
Do
with
I
a
have a
time?
vote to
Suggest-
refer it to IT? Our motion?
I'll make a motion to refer it to IT and see if we can get an answer on what it would cost.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's moved by Bob and seconded by Ray. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We'll have them look into it, give us a cost, and then we'll vote on whether
That's all
to
I'm
proceed or
asking.
not.
Mhm.
That's all.
Anything
We'll
else?
do adjourn.
Pardon?
We'll leave the item.
Yes, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Thank you, Bruce. Second, Bob. All those in favor?
Aye.